You're listening to Lore Friendly. I'm your host, Chris Takahashi, and with me, as always, is Alice Bell. How you doing, Alice?
Hello, everyone. I've just had a meltdown.
Yes, you're back from that place that we can't talk about.
Yeah, I'm back from that place that we can't talk about, and I've also had to, I had a meltdown over Tumblr and Twitter.
Oh, you did?
Simultaneously about my coursework.
That's not good.
Like an actual, literal meltdown.
And
I ended up writing some of my coursework drunk. It was that bad of a meltdown.
See, that's the disadvantage of having your professors follow you on Twitter and Tumblr.
Yeah.
And all that.
Oh, they
They
knew.
already knew
they
you
knew
were
that
crazy.
I was drinking. Yeah.
There's some people that
they already know that I have an issue with drinking.
There's some people who could just get away with it. It's like, oh, that's Alice being Alice. And then there's other people where if they say anything even remotely controversial, it's like, oh my god.
Oh my god! I thought she was so nice.
No, it's not the case. And that's why it's really hard to keep that up if you're being nice as an act.
Yeah, it isn't an act. It's just I'm a student. They expect it from us. Nottingham is notorious for really, really drunk students. We're the 8th drunkest city in the UK.
Okay.
I think either the 8th or the 3rd.
It's like going to the University of Santa Cruz or something, I guess. For America.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know which the party colleges are or anything.
Yeah, me neither. Santa Cruz is probably the lamest school in the universe. I don't know. I just assume it's a party school.
There'll be one in Malibu or something. Surely, they drink a lot and they're pretty and
Beverly Hills
do
High,
lots of stuff.
90210 and all that.
Yeah, that one. That actual real life school that is mad and insane and does lots of the drinking and the drugs.
Yeah, I think Beverly Hills
and the
is
marijuanas.
Where the celebrities go. And occasionally people from out of state, from Minnesota.
Well, Weezer wrote a song about Beverly Hills, didn't they? I think it was Weezer. Beverly Hills, that's where I want to be. I have an encyclopedic knowledge of early 2000s shitty rock music.
The Offspring and
I've been really getting back into Panic at the Disco at the minute. I'm revisiting my emo phase, and it's nice to get it out there, you know.
Yeah, I think that's where most people their entry into rock is via the radio, and the radio is going to play your Limp Bizkit or your
Linkin Park.
Linkin Park, yeah. And then there was that one phase right after it was Stained or Disturbed, or I forget the name of those groups.
I think Disturbed sounds more likely. I feel like I've heard of Disturbed before. I've never heard of a band called Stained.
Yeah. And what was that one where where the guy starts screaming really fast? I don't want to sing it.
Can you give me the song name?
It was I don't want to sing it, but it was trust in myself, something suicide or something like that.
Let me Google it. In
self-righteous suicide? I don't know. It's not really music that I was totally into. But it was really popular at the time. System of a Down.
Chop Suey!
Yes.
Ah, they always play that at the club that I go to at Christmas.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, it's great. How did I not recognize it from your wonderful rendition?
Yeah,
I've just put it on.
Awful. That was awful. Yeah.
Oh shit! I can't make it stop. There we go.
Okay.
My Firefox is a bit slow, so it lags every time I try to shut something down.
Speaking of good rock, though, I don't know if you want to go on a downer, but David Bowie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bloody
so
hell. That was a shock and a half, that.
Well, because when people are relatively young, he was what, 69? Yeah. It's you don't think they're gonna die, but I guess a lot of rockers, they're chain smokers. I don't know. Did he die of lung cancer, or what was the cause?
I think it was liver cancer.
Liver cancer. Oh, that's
yeah.
different. So that's alcohol.
Yeah. Or it could just be he had a genetic disposition to it. I think
true.
I think he did abuse drugs and stuff like that at one point, but I'm not 100% on his biography.
Yeah.
But
nor are we actual doctors or anything like that. Or even if we were doctors, it's not like we have access to his medical records or anything like that.
But he released an album, I think 2 or 3 days before he actually died.
Yeah, so that was
which
like
is
a goodbye.
Terrifying. Yeah, it's the video that was released just before his death, the music video for Lazarus. It's got him basically on his deathbed, and like the opening line from that song is something like "I'm in heaven now," and it's just terrifying watching that video.
It's a bit morbid in a way, but at the same time, I mean, it's real, and David Bowie, if nothing else, he was always very like a real and honest person, and that's what death is. It's part morbid, it's part celebratory in a way because you're celebrating a person's life, but
I just looked at it and it was like he turned dying into an art form. It's like, how many artists do that, really? Because like in terms of his career, he's been very long lived. Like he never, like he had a bit of a break a couple of years ago for a while because there was all this furore about his new album coming out. But he's always been in the industry, and how many celebrities who have passed on can you really say that about, who managed to release a final goodbye to their fans?
Right. Well, he's always been someone who's been able to adapt and make different kinds of music, and that's why I think those kind of musicians survive longest creatively, I suppose, as opposed to like musicians who put out the same kind of music. They're gonna probably
stagnate
out. Especially as the genres change or the attitudes change.
That thing about artists having to adapt and stuff. David Bowie was basically doing Madonna before Madonna was cool. Like, have you seen some of Madonna's latest stuff? It's terrifying. She's collaborating with like Nicki Minaj and stuff, and she's still pretending that she's like this super hot 20-year-old when in reality she's like old enough to be my grandma.
That's true.
It's just scary seeing her writhing around and gyrating. I mean, props to older women who like are sexually active and like express themselves sexually and stuff like that. But I do think that there is such a thing as age appropriate fashion, and what she is doing is not age appropriate.
Well, part of the reason is that society views older women differently than they do older men for whatever reason. Like, you can be an older man.
Yeah, you have a silver fox, but you don't have like a
like
silver
a super hot
pussy.
like old lady kind of thing. I don't know. I mean, Diane Lane would probably be the exception.
Helen Mirren's quite fair.
Right, but the only older women that people like call sexy are ones that look young for their age, basically.
Yeah.
Like, you don't see someone who's like super graying and old, and I don't know. I guess
I don't know. I think Mary Berry's quite attractive.
I don't know who that is.
Right, she's the host of
but she
an
sounds
English.
super hot.
She's the host of an English show called The Great British Bake Off.
I do her.
And she ended up on FHM's 100 Sexiest Women list. Like, I'll send you a picture.
Yeah. I'm sure I'll find her sexy. She won't find me sexy, but that's another story. The other thing that old men can get away with is they can have these really thick beards that cover up half their face.
Yeah.
And, like, I think Mark Hamill, for instance.
Mark Hamill has got a lot less flack for his aging than Carrie Fisher has.
Yeah. And
for the fact that he has the audacity to grow old.
Yeah, exactly. But even Harrison Ford, I think, looks older to me just because he's clean shaven.
Yeah.
Whereas Mark Hamill has that big old like goatee beard thingy going on.
I mean, I suppose that that Han Solo is older than Luke anyway, but still, yeah.
Like literally.
Luke just looks a bit like Mark Hamill just looks a bit like a homeless guy who's like had rough times. Han Solo looks like he's, lived through his. Are we okay to do spoiler talk?
Oh, let's put a disclaimer.
Spoilers for The Force Awakens. If you haven't seen it, you should go see it.
Yes.
It's great.
Yes, preferably in IMAX.
Spoiler-free review. It's a 10 out of 10.
Okay. All right, so what were you going to say about Mark Hamill? Now that everybody who is listening is now gone.
Like Harrison Ford looks like he's old enough to have had a child go to the dark side of the Force, and he looks like that stress has hit him really badly. I mean, the change in the characters is less evident in Harrison Ford, because Harrison Ford's never really disappeared out of the public eye, whereas Mark Hamill has gone on to do went on to voice acting for a long time, for throughout the 90s and the noughties mainly. And Carrie Fisher has been doing a lot of behind the scenes work, I think, and she had to drop out of Hollywood because of it's cocaine, isn't it? It's because of cocaine addiction.
Interestingly enough, that's not Carrie Fisher, but Harrison Ford and Mark Hamill. That's exactly how their roles play out in the movie. Like, Mark Hamill's been gone for a long time. No one knows where he is. He's homeless. I don't know. Are you technically homeless if you have your own planet?
I don't know. Does he own the planet? Does he have the deeds that say, hey, this is your planet now, mate?
Well, it's kind of like if you're the only one there, it's your planet. It's like the moon. The Americans put their flag on the moon because no one else has gotten to the moon.
Yeah, but you fuckers don't own the moon.
Technically, we
do.
The
moon is public property.
Is it? There's a flag on there that says otherwise, but I personally don't own the moon. If I win this Powerball lottery I bought, I might be able to buy the moon.
Can't you buy, like, pieces of the moon?
Well, like I said...
I read somewhere that you could buy plots of land on the moon. I'm not sure where I read this, but I read it somewhere.
Oh, yeah? I think that would probably be a hoax or a con.
Or Mars. Might be Mars.
Or
definitely... Scotland. I think it's Scotland, actually.
Same thing. Mars, Scotland.
You can buy, like, a foot squared of Scotland to name yourself a lord.
See, that makes sense because somebody probably owns the property to sell. I don't think anyone on Mars owns that property. That's probably a con more than anything.
Yeah, there's probably, like, aliens on Mars anyway. We shouldn't be claiming it.
But can...
Like, what gives us the right to lord it over the Martians, eh?
Well, if the Martians...
What gives us that right?
Well, if the Martians are, like, bacteria or anything, even if they own the land, it'd be pretty easy to...
Yeah, but they could kill us if they were bacteria.
Yeah, they could.
Depending on the kind of bacteria that they were.
They don't have the motive to kill us, unfortunately.
They do if we say, hey, this is Mars, it's ours now. Public property.
Well, they don't have the... Like, they can't...
If we start littering on their planet... I mean, they're probably pretty pissed off at us anyway because of all the rovers and stuff we've sent up there.
Yeah, but what if they're like... Well, what if they're like plastic eating bacteria or something? And they'd be like, they'll be
Plastic's
thrilled.
a synthetic element.
They'll be thrilled.
Plastic isn't real.
Yeah, but they're Martians. Martians aren't real either.
They might be. If there's bacteria that live on Mars, then technically they're Martians. Just
right,
like
and
how
they're just
we're Earthlings.
And it's just as scientifically plausible for them to eat plastic in this fake scenario.
But it isn't, because plastic is a synthetic material.
What if they're...
This is what I learnt in GCSE.
Well, what if the Martians are synthetic? What if they're synths?
Oh, shit.
Made by the Institute.
But who made them? Who
the Martian
how did the
Institute.
Institute get to Mars to make Martians?
Well, you'll have to play
Would
Fallout 4.
Would they be Martians as well?
Well, the answers are in Fallout 4. You'd have to play it first.
I can't play Fallout 4, Chris. I can't. I'm just voicing shit with no context. It's really weird.
In other big news, moving on. I guess we haven't really talked about Star Wars though.
No, we just said that we just dropped the big spoiler bomb, didn't we?
Not really. You didn't drop the spoiler bomb. You said Harrison had a kid. You didn't.
Who went
Han
evil?
Had a kid. Yeah, who went evil. So, what are your thoughts on the movie? I guess
it was so good. Like, it was obviously like the biggest retread of New Hope and stuff imaginable, but it was less of a complete rip-off and more of a homage.
Yeah, I felt that way too.
They did give us some incredible characters, some like incredibly completely original characters, completely different to the original cast in the newcomers Rey, Finn and Poe.
Right.
Like, they don't really have any significant parallel to like the original characters, aside from maybe you could argue that Rey's like a parallel to Luke in that she's left on a desert planet, but in terms of her personality and everything, she's completely different.
Right, they're all gonna fit a certain trope. Like, there's nothing that hasn't been done before, but you can tell that they're not clones. They're not the same as characters from previous movies. I mean,
like, Poe isn't as obnoxious and annoying as Han is, for example. I found Han very obnoxious in the first films.
Well, I don't think Poe
He was a bit of a dick, so...
Yeah. I actually don't think Poe was all that omnipresent at all in the movie. Like, you can tell he was supposed to die, so...
But he's very attractive.
Yes, that's true. That actually helps a great deal in kind of like getting a character to really
live past the first 5 minutes.
Yeah. Which is why pretty much every movie and TV show ever has attractive people in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, my favorite character was
probably...
probably...
That's why I can't get a job.
That's why we're doing podcasts. And
you don't need to see this.
Yeah, you don't want to see my face.
Yeah, plus it means that I can literally just... I'm sat here in, like, days-old pajamas.
Nah, I'm completely naked, but... Yeah.
Woo! Party!
No, it's way too cold for that. I'm actually, like, wearing a sweater.
It's actually quite warm here, for once.
Nah, weather's all
That's
weird.
probably because I've got the radiator on. It's not like I'm paying for heating or anything. Ha 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 ha! Ha ha!
I really like, though, speaking of characters, I really like Finn the most. I thought...
Yeah, Finn was...
Yeah, the chemistry he had with both Poe and Rey and just everybody on screen.
And Han, and Chewie, and BB-8. And he's just a treasure.
Yeah.
I don't say that very often about people, but Finn is a treasure. And the actor who plays him as well, he's a delight.
He's just that kind of just infectious, happy energy that comes across. Enthusiasm. That's the word I'm looking for. But yeah, it just comes across the screen and really helps balance all the darker, serious elements that are present in sort of like a religious movie like Star Wars is. Yeah, so just having that as a balance is just nice, and he comes across as easily my favorite character in the series. So I hope that he has more of a role to play. I know that it's shifting toward the Rey Kylo Ren dynamic.
Yeah.
But I kind of hope they don't forget Finn the way the sword Return of the Jedi kind of pushed Han aside once that whole thing was done.
Well, it might be a bit like... I always felt that Luke got a bit sidelined almost in the Return of the Jedi, because he was just completely separated from the main action.
Right, but he was the main action. The other stuff was ancillary, like Han destroying the deflector shield.
In terms of actual action, like on-screen action.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I felt like it focused a lot more on Leia and Han rather than on Luke. Like, Luke was always very separated from it all, and I suppose that's like kind of the point. He's a Jedi, as we learnt in the prequels that we really shouldn't speak of. Jedi are meant to almost stand alone. Like, they're not meant to rely on others, as was hammered in
it's all those
very frequently by Yoda. Yeah,
it makes you emo.
Speaking of emo, Kylo Ren.
Yes, great segue.
Oh, God,
so what did you think? What was your initial impression when he took off the mask?
I was like, oh my God, it's Snape.
Yes, mine too. I was like, what?
Like, people are saying that, like, the actor's really attractive and stuff, and I'm just like, I don't see it. He's got a shovel for a face.
It's like, oh, am I in the wrong theater? Did I just walk into a Harry Potter movie? I was
like, whoa. It was just when he took off the mask, I was just sat there like, what?
And part of that is deliberate. Like, you're supposed to say what? Like, you could tell that's what Rey's reaction was. Like, whoa. This is not what I was expecting.
Yeah. His face.
Yeah.
I just can't get over it. No offense to the actor, because he was incredible playing, like, the petulant, whiny, uncertain character that is Kylo Ren, that I felt we needed from a villain. So often we get villains that are so certain in themselves.
Yeah.
Like, I really do like how they branched away from that, and they showed a Kylo Ren that was how Anakin should have been in the prequels.
Right.
Like, superbly acted and everything.
it's one of those things where, okay, you have this iconic figure, Darth Vader, and you can go one of two ways. You can try to best that, which is more or less impossible. You're never going to do that. Or you just take it in a completely different direction where you're free to kind of explore and make your own character, where as opposed to trying to beat something else that is already part of like pop culture, basically. When we're talking about
Darth Vader is one of those iconic, not just sci-fi figures, but film figures. And I think my door just opened and closed by itself. Right. That's scary. Sorry.
It's probably the wind.
My house is haunted by spiders.
Right. So, I mean, that being said, I guess they did do a lot of derivative plot points, or they hit it beat for beat in that regard. But I think the characters are what's really important. Like, the overall story, you're never going to make an original story. But what you can do is you can put original characters into it and tell something in a different way. And so that's why, even though, like, you can argue that the story was beat for beat the same, I'm glad that they went a different direction with the characters, whether it's Kylo Ren, Rey, or Finn, or whoever. The only criticism I really have, and this is really no fault of anyone, basically, is that the timeline is so recent that it renders the original 3 movies completely pointless in terms of the ending, as far as like, oh, they destroyed, the Empire and we brought peace and everyone lived happily ever after. Well, that's just not the case. It only lasted 20, 30 years before the First Order came back to power. Yeah, so it's like you can't watch those original movies the same way knowing what's going to happen in 20, 30 years. And then at the same point, that makes you realize once episode 10 is over and Rey and Finn and Poe presumably live happily ever after, when episode 11 comes out, that's all going to mean nothing.
Yeah.
And that's just a product of sequels and just the way it is. I mean, you have to have more movies. It's better to have more movies than not. So my only criticism is I would have liked it for it to happen 200 years in the future, but if you do that, you can't use the original cast.
Yeah. Unless the Force keeps them alive, like it seemed to have kept Yoda alive.
Ghost Luke or something.
Yeah.
I would have been cool with that. I would have been cool with just, like...
Like, you could even have Ghost Leia as well, because Leia's, like, obviously Force sensitive. Like, she's... Yeah. Like, we could have had Force Ghost Leia and Force Ghost Luke, and they could have had sibling squabbles.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted. I wanted more sibling relationships. Not like the snoggy relationship that they had in fucking New Hope, but...
Yeah.
Like, I wanted some squabbles, but instead Luke just fucks off to an island.
Yeah, but the two of them never really had that kind of relationship to begin with. I mean, it was different. I mean, they were brother and sister, so they had to love each other, but you didn't get really that chemistry that you had with Han and Leia in the first
Although
trilogy.
Han seemed to think so. Like, he was like, yo, you love Luke, don't you? And she was like, well, yeah, he's my brother, duh. Like, like she just expected him to know it, and it was like, you only found out 5 minutes ago, love.
Midichlorians.
Yeah.
But, I would have preferred not even a Ghost Luke, not even a Ghost Leia. I would have preferred just 200 years in the future. Like, let them...
Completely new.
Yeah, completely new. Let them have the peace and the 100 years of peace or 200 years of peace that gives
Let them chill out for a bit.
That gives their accomplishment weight and meaning. And let them die thinking that peace would happen for the rest of their lives. And then maybe 100 years after that, trouble brews again.
The First Order rises up and shit happens. Like, they could have still had Kylo Ren be like a descendant of them and everything, but...
Exactly, and the distance between him and Darth Vader would be so great that he could easily manipulate who he was,
and
what he was.
Mythologize him.
Yeah, exactly, and that's kind of why I would prefer they had waited, but it's one of those Hollywood things where, like, you have to sort of do this fan service kind of thing where you have to bring in the old cast and you have to have attractive people. You have to do all it's one of those things that, like, you can forgive the people who made the film. It just had to be the way it is, and it still might be great. The story might be great, so it's just that I really loved the original 3 movies, as most people do, and so having them lose some of their luster like that is a bit disappointing, but
it kind of puts that whole struggle into perspective a bit.
Yeah.
It's just like, shit happens, mate. Deal with it.
Yeah, exactly. But moving on, we better move on. It's already 30 minutes.
That's impressive to say that we have nothing to talk about.
Yeah, there's always something to talk about. It's Star Wars and Game of Thrones. Big announcement this year that the books will not be coming out before the new season.
Damn it, George! I remained unhungover all New Year's Day, waiting for that announcement, waiting for him to write something, and then he was like, lol, accidentally deleted it. And so you had to wait until the end of the next day for him to post it, and he was just like, I can't write very quickly, soz guys.
You can feel him just struggling with the words. You can feel him like fumbling at his keyboard trying to figure out how like computers work. It's funny because when he talks about like how he has his like the Winds of Winter stored on DOS and backed up on floppy disks. It's like, when are you writing this? Like 1989? It's like, oh my god.
Please don't, George. You'll lose it all.
I kid. But how do you feel about the fact that there's a big delay?
I feel it's reasonable given his age.
Right.
Like, he is getting on. Like, I struggled to write 3,000 words over the course of 6 months. So,
yeah.
I can kind of understand him struggling. But at the same time, it is his livelihood, and he does have such a dedicated fan base who don't particularly like the show and don't particularly want the show to spoil it for them. So when he gives us these big grandiose promises of, oh, it'll be into the publishers at New Year's and it'll come out before season 6, it's kind of a kick in the teeth.
Yeah, well, for publishers especially, because they're expecting a big drop in sales, I'm assuming, because people are going to get spoiled.
They want to sell the book.
Right, but I mean, who cares about them? They're going to be rich anyway.
Yeah.
As far as George R. R. Martin is concerned, I mean, there's two sides to this argument. There's the Neil Gaiman side, where he talks about, like, George R. R. Martin is not your bitch.
Yeah.
He is not here to satisfy you. It's his life. He can do whatever he wants, which is a great argument. The other counter argument, to play devil's advocate, is to say, okay, he sold us these books with a promise of an end. There's like this implicit agreement that when you buy the previous book, like Dance with Dragons, was that the title? I don't even remember, it was so long ago.
2011.
Yeah.
That is like 5 years ago now.
So like when you're buying the book, there's this sort of implicit agreement that there's this contract between you and the author that this book is not going to end on a cliffhanger, that there will be other books that you can buy and finish the story, right?
Yeah.
So that's the other side of the argument. I don't know which side you fall on, but I personally think it's his life and he can do whatever he wants.
I feel like I'd rather him take his time with it than push something out half-assed.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I do really want to read the book, and I don't trust Game of Thrones as an adaptation anymore, because like last season with the whole
well, especially
thing.
now that it's going into uncharted territory, whereas before they're copying exactly what or not copying, but they're using the books as a source.
Lightly.
The one thing I would say is that that really worries me, I guess I should say, is that I'm not sure he has the inspiration or the motivation or drive to write the final 2 books, and that's what you really need.
Yeah.
It's not time, it's not necessarily age. I mean, age plays a factor because you lose energy, but if you don't have that inspiration, like you can write 10,000 words in like a week if you're inspired. It could take you years to write 100 words if you just don't care.
Yeah.
And it's not saying he doesn't care. It's just I don't know if he has the same motivation or the same drive as when he started out the series.
I feel like it would have been better if he'd have written it in a like Lord of the Rings type situation, where he wrote like the whole trilogy and then released it.
Yeah. without this sort of expectations and burdens of fans and all the media attention and extra things in his life that money gave him, right?
Yeah. Like, I do feel like he's lost some kind of passion for the series. The way he has talked about it on his blog, it does seem like a chore to him, which isn't,
right.
It isn't pleasant. Like, I know when I do writing, like, if it's for an essay or if it's creative or anything like that, I do it because I want to do it, not because anyone has any expectations of me doing it. And as soon as those expectations get lumped on, like, suddenly I'm just like, I don't feel it now.
Yeah.
Lost it.
Yeah, and if you lose that passion, that drive, and I'm not saying he has, it's just that time is usually an indicator of that. Like, if you take a long time to do something, it's usually an indication that you don't really care for it, whereas if it's something you really want to do, you make time for it. You kind of, like, push aside other stuff to make time for this thing that you're passionate about. So that's what I wonder.
Instead of the other way around, where he's giving himself so many projects and con appearances and stuff like that.
Yeah, so that's the thing I'm worried about most of all. But only he knows that. Only he knows if he's really... Because he's not going to say it. He would never say he's lost passion to write the novel.
It'd be suicide.
Yeah. But if he has, then, you know, it doesn't matter if he takes 20 years to write it. It's not going to be good.
Yeah.
But that being said, the big question, are you going to watch season 6, or is it season 6? Are you going to watch season?
I am going to watch it, but I'm going to be very critical about it because hating things is one of my favorite hobbies.
Yes.
And after season 5, I feel like I can't hate it anymore, so I'd quite like to exercise the amount of hate that I have in my body. I'd quite like to put that to the test.
No way to go but up, I guess, after last season.
No, I feel like they can go a lot further down. I mean, bear it in mind that the Emmy-winning episode had the line, "You want a good girl, but you need a bad pussy."
What?
That was the episode that won an Emmy for writing.
Wait, who said that? What was the context?
It was the sand snake to Bronn. I think it was Tyene.
Oh, right. Well, she was seducing
girl,
him.
But you need a bad pussy. That's why I play the prostitutes.
Yeah, this guy needs to write porn. Yeah.
It probably was on the same level as porn writing, to be honest. I haven't really got much experience with porn.
Okay, we need to talk about that at some point, but we're not going to care that you're going to get spoiled as far as, like, the major plot points.
Considering how far off the books they managed to go with the last season, like, I don't think they can spoil it.
No, but they're going to spoil the big plot points.
They're not going to spoil what Sansa's doing in the Eyrie, which is my favourite plot line. They're not going to spoil what Littlefinger's scheming about, because he's obviously doing something completely different in the books. He's not going to... May spoil a bit of the King's Landing storyline, but as far as I'm aware, they haven't established the wildfire and being cached under the city and stuff like that. So I don't think the likely outcome of King's Landing is going to be spoiled.
Right, but Daenerys...
I don't care about Daenerys.
Okay,
to be honest.
And Jon Snow, that outcome is going to be spoiled. The main
Jon Snow's alive. Everybody knows it.
No, right, but what happens after that? And, like, how does he find out about his, like, lineage and all that? That's going to be decided. I mean, that's already probably written in George R.R. Martin's mind from the big start of the series. Like, when he first wrote down this, like, the plot of A Song of Ice and Fire, that was the main plot point, right? That was the main ending.
R and L plus L equals J.
Yeah,
it's going to get shown to him by Bran in a vision because D&D aren't very original.
But
that's what's going to happen. That's why they brought Bran back. It's just to say, hey, you're actually royalty, but you're still a bit of a bastard, so there you go.
But the fact that you hate the TV show and love the books, you're still going to watch the TV show first?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's going to be no way to avoid it. Like, I follow a lot of criticism blogs and stuff on Tumblr, and I'm subscribed to all the Reddits and everything. So I'd rather it be spoiled on my own terms, which is taking the piss of the show, than by stumbling across something on the internet.
Yeah.
Like, I'd rather the major plot points be spoiled by the TV show, where I can criticize it, where I can like look at it critically and detach myself from it. And because they've gone so far off anyway, like I can't think, oh, well, you know, they've spoiled the books for me, because the books are going in a completely different direction. Like the books have themes, the TV show doesn't.
Right. I think for me, I'm probably going to watch the TV show, of course, for the reasons you stated. You don't want to get spoiled by the internet, but also because I think it's just a tighter narrative. I don't agree with a lot of their choices, obviously, but I think George R. R. Martin, like, he has just way too many threads right now that he has to consolidate.
That is the issue that he's having with writing at the minute.
Yeah, there's just way too many threads. It's way too scattered, and I feel like I want things to focus. While we're drawing to the end, I want things to get tighter, and I want to follow the main story. I want to follow a specific protagonist, and then once that's over and done with, then I could go to the books and just get more layers and layers and stuff like that. So I actually feel like it's better to watch the TV show first and get the major...
It does give you a better grasp of the plot line first.
Right.
And
not have your mind in like 7 different point of views trying to figure out what's going on. It's just like everything gets like consolidated together. You finish the story, you get an understanding of the story, and it's a story that George R. R. Martin already had from the beginning. It's not like it's D&D's story, right?
Yeah.
The main plot points. The main plot points are going to be George R. R. Martin. So that consolidates, that conflates, and then afterwards you could get the sort of layers from the books, I think.
And the actual story.
The canon story.
Yeah. Like, let's view Game of Thrones as like the Wikipedia version.
Yeah.
Poorly cited Wikipedia version.
The TLDR.
Yeah. And then the books are the actual books.
The literal TLDR 200
yeah.
and read. Do you think that George R. R. Martin is going to have the books influenced by the TV show?
I don't think so. I think maybe his image of well, we know that he's been inspired to have Osha in the books a bit more. Like, he's been inspired by his performance to have her involved more, and I feel like the performances of some of the other characters that had been very strong with the within the adaptation might influence the direction in which he takes some of the characters personality-wise, or whether they appear more in the books.
He could also...
But in terms of plot points, in terms of themes and things like that, I don't think it's going to be influenced that much.
Do you think, like, if something doesn't work, he can just, like, oh, well, that was crap, and just cross it off and change it? Like,
yeah.
Can he use the internet's reaction to the TV show to write the book, you think?
Well, if he did write The Burning of Shireen, as was written in D&D, then I very much think that the reaction to that would have made him not write it.
Yeah.
Like, rewrite the circumstances completely.
Yeah.
Like,
that would be very interesting to see, because that is something we know that was created by the showrunners, right?
No. It was told to them by George that Shireen would be burned or would die. Yeah.
Like, he specifically said burned?
Well, died.
Okay. Yeah.
I think. But the circumstances under which she'll die will probably be completely different to his stores and army being destroyed by 20 good men.
Yeah, it's true. But yeah, so you're gonna watch the TV show?
Yep.
We could still talk about it.
We can carry on using our rating system.
Okay, good. I did buy a Powerball ticket.
Have you won the lottery?
No. It's Did you know? Or I guess because you're in the UK, you don't know about this. But do you know how much it's for?
Is it something like in the billions?
Yes, it's 1.5 billion.
Oh shit!
And
oh boy!
You
can buy a recording studio.
Yeah, and a lot more. But well, how do you feel about, since the odds are obviously astronomical and it's usually just a waste of money, how do you feel about buying lottery tickets?
I've done it before. Like, in for a penny, in for a pound.
Isn't it like taxation for the poor?
No. It's money. It goes to someone.
Because only poor people like myself buy lottery tickets. Like,
yeah, I don't know what the lottery foundation is like in your country, but the National Lottery in the UK, it does a lot of charity work, and it does a lot of funding for projects and stuff like that.
I think
so
the money
I
goes
remember
to
my
schools.
I remember my old school gym. It was completely renovated using funds from the National Lottery. So in that way, it's like donating to charity with the chance of like maybe getting something in return.
Being rich and donating more to charity. Yeah, it's completely benevolent buying lottery tickets.
I don't mind
Not
it.
selfish
I think
at
it's
all.
cool. I'm cool with gambling. Like that's what it is essentially. It's gambling. It's
Right.
low risk gambling.
It's also basically throwing your money away. But
hey, I won £15 on a £1 scratch card. Thank you very much.
Here is my argument for lottery tickets and why I buy them. I don't buy them often, but I buy them for two reasons.
There's a ridiculous jackpot.
For two reasons. One, because like with a ridiculous jackpot, it's the same odds. It's the same odds as winning $1 million. Only this time you're going for $1 billion, so it's better. It's better in terms
investment.
of the return. A better investment. Yeah, you can call it an investment. The second reason is the main reason why I think people buy lottery tickets, because knowing the odds, they're probably not going to win, but they still buy them, right?
Yeah.
It's for that feeling of hope. I guess it's weirdly idealistic, but it's that like that.
It
10
could
minutes,
happen.
Right, that 10 minutes where you dream about what you're going to spend. And what you're going to buy with the money that you win. It's for that, like, conversation you have with friends that, okay, I'm going to get this, I'm going to get that. This is what we're going to do with our $1 billion. We're going to travel around the world. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. That's the sort of thing that you're actually buying when you buy a lottery ticket. You're not buying it because you're going to win, because you're not going to win. I mean, that's obvious. But you're buying it for that 10 minutes or that small
feeling.
Feeling of hope that you get. When you buy a lottery ticket, it's like, oh, I could win $1 billion. This is what I'm going to buy. This is how my life's going to change. And that's the reason why I think people buy them.
I've always said if I won the lottery, I'd buy a horse.
Would you? You would buy a horse?
Yeah. I used to do horse riding.
How much? But is a horse really expensive, though? I mean,
Horses are like a couple of £100, but like the upkeep of them is quite expensive. Like my nana owns a horse, and she has to go up there every morning. She has to go up there every evening. And she has to obviously ride it. And she has to pay, I think she pays £30-40 a week to house the horse.
It sounds like
so it does add up a lot of money, yeah.
I mean, you could pay somebody to take care of it, but then it's not really your horse. It's the person.
And that's more money.
Yeah. It just sounds like a pain in the ass. I don't know. But I'm lazy.
I would want a horse, though.
Would you do rich people things like play polo and go fox hunting?
No, I'm completely ethically opposed to fox hunting.
Well, what about polo? You own a horse.
No, just throw pennies at poor people.
Okay.
It's more humane.
But yeah, we're at an hour, so
yeah, that'll do.
That'll do for this episode.
It was only meant to be a quickie.
Yeah, but it ended up being 60 minutes as usual.
We can edit it down, it's fine.
Yeah, I'm sure we will.
This is the shit we're good at. Well, you're good at. I'm terrible at audio editing, so.
Anything else you want to
add? No.
Okay.
I think we're good. Goodbye, folks.
Okay. Goodbye.
See you next time.
See you next time.
My brother-in-law's workmate does that. Like
Really?
he rents a hooker and then they just cuddle and talk like girlfriend and.
That's really what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say brave. I want to say like the fact that he's open about it is really interesting to me. Like most people would like feel that is like not very manly.
Outrageous, yeah.
Well, it just feels less like masculine, I suppose the word is. Whereas like a man would just like wham bam, thank you, ma'am. But the fact that this guy is like open about cuddling and needing his emotions like served, it's kind of like, oh,
it's the girlfriend experience, isn't it?
That's new. That's interesting. I guess it is kind of brave in a way. What a courageous man this guy is. To buy hookers
I would
for
definitely be. I would definitely be bought for cuddling. Everybody loves a good cuddle. I'd be that kind of hooker. I'd be the girlfriend experience hooker.
Right.
Where people just want cuddles.
You just make sure you have a really good bouncer like outside the door because it's just like, you know.
Could you write a hooker that just does the cuddle experience? Could that be a thing? Could I play a cuddle hooker?
I would probably be more interested in writing the guy who's open about cuddling. That's the more interesting character. Well, there is a guy like that in the brothel. Of the Skyrim brothel. If you play that Dark and Steel quest, there's like one guy who's like, me and this girl, we're in love. We're gonna get married and stuff like that. But that's more typical. It's not like there's a lot of people who go to strip clubs and like fall in love with the strippers. So it's an old story.
Tales old as time. Hooker and the Beast. That's nasty.